This video will give you an overview of some of the key features in setting up your Logos software. Things we'll look at are how to open a resource from your library, that is the collection of resources within your Logos subscription. Number 2, how to set up panels, that is arrange the various windows. Number 3, how to save that layout of panels. 4, we'll look at adjusting font size for legibility. 5, we'll show you how to link related resources. And 6, show you how to look up items in original language resource. Let's start with opening the library. You see before you the end product, the goal, which I'm going to recommend as a very workable workspace. You're free to adjust it as you wish, but I'd like you to begin by figuring out how to lay it out in this fashion. That'll give you some ready access to some of your most useful resources. So mine is already the finished product, I acknowledge, but here's how to open a resource. Up here in the very top bar, next to the magnifying glass and this green Go button, you can type in a resource that you're looking for. So if, for example, you have not yet opened your Hebrew Bible, let's just type in Hebrew Bible and see what happens. What it's doing then is researching resources you have access to, and it's telling me that if I want, I could open up the Lexham Hebrew Bible or some other items. Mine, Lexham Hebrew Bible, now I'm hovering over that open item and it's giving me an image of it. I've already got it open, but I'll go ahead and click on it and let's see if that opens a new one. I think it's probably just referred me to this page right here in the upper left of this panel, which I have open. You can see the title of the resource there in the tab up at the top. If you want to get rid of it, just click on the X and that will erase it from your window, remove it from your window. It won't remove it from your collection. You can always go back here to the panel that lets you search, the search panel, and find it. If you want a list of your library items, this little triple vertical bar looks like one book leaning against the other. Click on that and it will show you what you have in your collection. And you can search through alphabetical. All right, once you have a resource open, then you're able to move it around on your screen by dragging its tabs. So here I'm up at the upper left where the title tab is. Left click on that and it becomes mobile. Notice that part of the screen is turning gray. That's telling you where that resource will occupy, space it'll occupy if you release. So if I move my mouse, still depressing on that left mouse button, if I move it to the left, you can see that the gray zone has shrunk. And it says, oh, I guess you just want to fill about 1/8 of a page. I'm still depressing on that left button. I'm going to drag it down. And now it says, oh, maybe you want to just occupy the top of the lower left quadrant, or maybe this portion. I'm moving my mouse so you can see how much you can shape the location of it. I personally like to have my original language Bibles up in the upper left. That's kind of my starting location. So I'm going to release and hopefully it'll go back to its, it didn't go back to its far left tab. It moved to its right tab location. I like to have my Lexham Hebrew Bible, and also I have BHS, Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartense is another Hebrew Bible. I like them in the far left. So now I'm just going to left click on that tab, and then I'm going to keep it right in that tab row. And you can see now I'm able to just slide it along. I want it way over here as my first resource. Once again, if you just want to move a resource within a quadrant where it's already located, instead of moving it to a different quadrant, left click on it. I'm going to do it with the BHS. Now that's selected BHS and I can move it. I can sequence it. You see the little orange bar that's moving along. That's telling me where in the set of tabs it's going to locate. All right, so let's go back and expose the Lexham Hebrew Bible. It happens to be open to Proverbs 13. Chances are yours just opening up to the title page. In order to navigate within that resource, then this window, this little search or location window that you see opening up is the way to move around. You can type in whatever you want. It's quite forgiving. So for example, if we wanted Genesis 22, we can just type Gen 22. Don't need periods, don't need capitalization. It's offering us some titles down here, either the chapter or a section title, Sacrifice of Isaac. I don't need to utilize, I don't need to mouse down to those. I can just tap enter and it'll take me right here to Genesis 22. So that's navigation. You can also navigate by the scroll bar on the far right where the cursor is now, and that's going to move mega. Let's see where I wind up if I just drop it in the middle, and I'm going to check and see where I am. Oh, I'm in Isaiah 23 now. That's another way to move. That's pretty rugged. So let's go back to, for example, Genesis. Actually, let's go back a different way. Let's see what happens if we use this left arrow. Let's see if that'll take us back to Genesis 22. No, it actually took us all the way back to Proverbs 13, where we were at the beginning of the session. So sometimes that left and right arrows will take you back where you want to, where you have been. Dropping down right here, we see using this small down triangle called panel history, it lets us know what are the markers that it's remembering. While we're within this panel, let's show you a couple other items. Font size. Perhaps you're projecting your screen for others to see and you need a very large font size. We're going to use the vertical triple dots that are in the upper right of each panel. Notice they're over here in this far right as well of this other panel, which happens to be the Brown Driver Bricks Lexicon. Triple dots offer you a fairly consistent menu of options, the first of which takes you from small font to large font. They have a default, you see the vertical hash marks. This is a larger hash mark. That's where they say, well, we think this resource is easily viewed in that size, but it's entirely up to you. If you want to fit more words on the page, just slide this item along or click there and then just get out of that dialog panel, click somewhere else, and it should have responded. It did respond, made it much smaller. If I don't like that, I need a bit larger. Let's click again on that slide rule and then just click outside of it in the document, and it will have arranged the font size according to your request. While we're talking about those triple dots, one other item that's my most frequently used one has to do with down here, about fourth from the bottom. It's called Float This Panel. Float This Panel. Control F11, Function 11 will achieve the same item. Suppose you've got your panels arranged as they are and your resource is frankly not showing enough. Say in this case, perhaps it's not showing enough of the biblical text. How much is here? At this font size, I'm getting 5 verses. Maybe I need 10 verses, and I still like the big font. Or whatever is the situation, I just need to see more at once. Float this panel means it will open up a new window apart from all the other segmented or segregated windows, and it will dominate that entire window. Here we'll click on Float This Panel, and you can see now that the one I was operating in, Lexham Hebrew Bible, with that same citation, Proverbs 13:1 and following, now occupies a full window. I can still do things like change font size and so forth. Perhaps I'm finished with working and seeing the big view, and I want to push it back where it started. They call that docking the panel. It's still the fourth item up from the bottom, but instead of floating the panel, docking the panel, Control Shift F, Shift Function 11 will do it. Dock the panel will drop it in. Usually it'll drop it in where you took it from. Sometimes it'll drop it into another quadrant. Just kind of look for it, and you can always drag it back to your favorite parking place. So far we've seen then how to open a resource from your library, seen how we can move a resource around in the various panels, kind of sizing it. And we've seen font size. Let's be sure we have one other resource open. a Bible resource and then show you how linking works. Let's take, for example, New Revised Standard. You can pick whichever one you want. Actually, New American Standard Bible is one I'd like you to have open. Let's go with that. So I'm going to type in your NASB. I do have it already open in the lower quadrant. Lower left, you can see I'm hovering over it right here. So chances are, I'll type in NASB for New American Standard Bible and enter. Yeah, it knew I already had it down there, so it just opened up that one. Yours is going to open up somewhere in the middle. Drag and drop it to, I'd recommend the lower left quadrant. Incidentally, it occurs to me that if you don't already have some quadrant divisions set up, divisions, that's not a special partition you put in, it's just based on size of resources that you've already established. It's possible they didn't, they're not offering you a quarter size. You can manually change the size by just dragging and dropping the top, the dividing lines, call it the boundary line between resources, just as you would with normal windows. You can see we can do that in a variety of ways. All right, so here we've got New American Standard Bible. Now, what's exceptionally helpful here, a time-saving device, is the ability to have one resource track with another one if they're of equivalent content. So Bible A tracking with Bible B. That includes across languages. So here's how to do that. Let's click into our Hebrew Bible. So that's active. And let's go to triple dots, again, up in the upper right corner. Notice now, link set. I've got an overlay. I need to get rid of, there we go. Link set, which is just below find in this panel. Link set establishes a family of documents that you're asking to be coordinated together. What letter link you assign is arbitrary. That's just like a set of paper clips. There's the A paperclip, the B paperclip, and the C paperclip, or whatever you want to call it. There's nothing magical about these letters. It's just nice that you have got 6 to work with. You can have 6 separate linking clusters. So click on A. I notice that as soon as I click on it, I lose this window. That's okay. Click on A, and then a couple things happen. Notice that up here at the top, it announces this resource is participating in what you've established as link set A. Now you'll want to have probably if you have a BHS as well, you'll probably want to have that one on the same link set. So again, triple dots, down to link set, and click A. Notice that there is a none option if you want to remove it at any time, kind of disassociate it. What if, for example, you want one Hebrew Bible looking at Genesis 1 and another Hebrew Bible looking at Psalm 23? Kind of a pain if the second one's always catching up with the first one when you want it to be isolated and independent. You would just click the none and it runs makes it independent. I'm going to restore A there. The other thing you want to do is take your English Bibles, any that you want to have quick reference to from the Hebrew to English, vice versa, and establish the link set with them as well. So we'll do that with New American Standard. Pop open the triple dots and then establish. Gotta get rid of that overlay. There we go. Establish link set A. And now, whenever you move one, the other will catch it up according to its top line. I say top line because you see the font in NASB is much larger. It can't represent all 7 verses of the Hebrew that's exposed, but it will start with the top line. So as I move the Hebrew around, clicking in the Hebrew window, and then I can roll my mouse, just rolling it up or down causes that kind of motion. There's another way to move a whole page at a time, an exposed page at a time, moving further down the resource, and that's to use your spacebar on your keyboard. So now I'm going to click the spacebar and watch what happens. We should move from top line of Proverbs 13:1. It should show up with what? Verse 7 or verse 8, evidently. Verse 9. Okay, 8 was exposed, so then it goes to 9. Notice now the English below in New American Standard. It has similarly advanced. A very, very helpful little device. So I encourage you to do that with as many Bibles as you want to be able to quickly compare. So for example, over here I've got NIV. It's not on link set, and yet it seems to be connecting. Let's see. Is it? Oh, it is on link set. It just is not exposed in the title. Didn't have room to show that, but it is, and so it's connecting the NET Bible, NET Bible, New Century, English Standard Version, NRSV, and so forth for quick referring one to another to check wording. Incidentally, I may have called out some Bibles that are not in your collection. I'm not exactly sure whether some of those extra ones are there. There are some Bibles I think are free, but others you can purchase and add on as you wish. So please know that's always available to you. While you are a seminary student, any Logos purchase will enjoy a certain amount of discount. I'm not sure if it'll be the same discount you got for the package as a whole, but you should get a certain discount while you're still enrolled. So be aware of that. All right, so we've opened up resources. We've shown layout of panels, font size, and linking. Let's now go to how to save this layout. In the upper right, next to the Close All Panels button, you'll see this three bold rectangle. This is intended to represent a layout of multiple panels on one screen. Left click on it, and you'll see some of the following information. You will see in the upper left with the gray border, now, what is open right now. You'll want to save that so that you can resuscitate it, bring it up another time. Incidentally, Logos is really good about opening to the last layout that you closed out of. But there are times that it may lose its place, or there may be times that for a period of a certain project, you may want a different layout. Maybe you want to print screen with just Hebrew full length on the left and English full length on the right, or something else. And so you'll change the layout, and that will become a secondary one that you'll want. In any case, here's how to save it. Save as a named layout. You can click on this blue and then enter a name. Maybe you just want to call it basic. And I believe we want to do this arrow. Now let's look around. It's still offering us a now, but notice that it's added basic. And I believe we should find it on the left. Yes, now it's moved to a, this is like an index or table of contents. There are a few others that I have developed from time to time, but basic is the one that we made just now. Check mark indicates that this is the one that's at work. Let's see, just to show you how that works, let's see what 1 Samuel 10 text critical sample. This is one I developed some time ago. It's thinking. Here we go, text critical. So we've got Hebrew next to Greek, next to a little bit of English. Well, it's full English, it's just narrowed down. So if I want to go back to basic, again, I'm going to click on that cluster of three bold rectangles. I'm going to come over here in the lower left of the drop down and find basic, click on it, and there we are, back where we started. That's the way to save your layout. The last thing we'll show you today is looking up words. Incidentally, before getting to that, if you've already had Greek, you'll want to open up your Greek resource. Nestle Aland is probably the one that you've got. Nestle Aland is a very good scholarly resource. Incidentally, you can see that my English Bible, they've all switched. They've said, oh, that happens to be part of cluster A, so they have caught up with that and moved to the corresponding portion, which happened to be the Beatitudes, Matthew 5. But let's go back to Hebrew, and let's just take something familiar. How about we go to Genesis 1. Good. So here we are with the upper left Hebrew Bible panel revealing Genesis 1:1. And let's suppose we're reading along there and we're wondering that bara, that second word, looks to be a verb. Certainly Bereshit is not. We know Elohim means God, so we want to zero in on the verb and then orient ourselves with subject and object and prepositional phrases secondarily. What if we don't know what bara means? Here are the steps to take. Take your mouse and hover over it. Instantly, you'll find in the lower left corner of that Hebrew Bible quadrant, you will find that it reveals a nickel version of information. As soon as I move my cursor off to show you what zone I'm talking about, we lose it because it's a pop-up, but it's down here in the lower left. Now I'll return and hover over that word. So then in the lower left, we see that it produces the shoresh, bara, and then it indicates numeral 1, which within the Logos scheme of definitions, it's saying it's meaning number 1 associated with it. That's not the same as what we'll find in the lexica, the standard lexica like Brown Driver Briggs. That happens to be Logos's own little kind of search categories. But that's what's meant by the numeral 1. That's not particularly crucial to you at this point. Then a semicolon, and the part of speech is identified as a verb. It's not a noun, a preposition, a particle. And then capital QAL, call. It's indicating that this is the call stem or binyan. It's not a PL, a hifil, a pual, a hofal, or one of those. It's call. It's the standard one that we're accustomed to. And then the word katal appears, followed by parenthetical perfect. Those are synonyms. Katal is indicating it's the conjugation which we routinely render as a past, unless context prevents us, disallows that option. Perfect is the label for the katal conjugation that's used in many of the earlier grammars. So it's good to get used to that. When you run into perfect, just think, oh, that's my friend, the katal conjugation. In contrast to yiktol, which will go by the name imperfect. That is future, typically a future tense. Further parsing then continues. It's third person, not first or second. It's masculine, not feminine. It's singular, not plural, or common, or dual. And finally, we get our penny translation, create. I say penny to encourage you not to stop at that, unless all you needed was a reminder, and then you instantly remember all the varied range of meanings that you've memorized in times past for that verb. Otherwise, don't stop at create. Now we're going to take hold of the mouse again and click on the right side. A right click will cause the following drop down. That is a right click on whatever word you're hovered over. Here's the right click for bara. I'm going to slide over to Elohim, hover on it, and then right click. Here's the drop down for Elohim. So each word will pull up its unique drop down. We'll look at just a couple or three portions of this. There's a boatload of information here, most of which you will not need or be interested in. It's a bit of an overkill. To start off with, it says, let me confirm with you what word I'm talking to you about. The computer's telling you that it's bara. Perhaps your mouse moved and it's opening up a word you're not interested in. That's kind of a double check to say, okay, this is what you asked for, this is what you're getting. Reference, this is where you are right now. No real surprise there. And then we're getting some root identifications, bara, create. Over here on the top right, it's important to notice this lemma and confirm that bara is what's showing up. Here's why. Supposing you dropped in on a word that's a compound. It actually has two words that's making it up, such as the lamed le preposition plus an infinitive, like lalechet, to go, or le'echol, to eat. This drop down in those cases would actually segregate out those components. And it will say, it basically will ask you, which one do you want me to look up? Do you want me to look up le, the preposition, or do you want me to tell you about echol, to eat? And in those cases, you'll want to watch what's over here on the right panel and make sure that, say, if you already know that le is the preposition, you're interested in echol, You want to make sure that it's looking up that section of the echol. Here, it's not compound. All we have is one piece of information given. It's bara, and that's good. At that point, we just skate right down here to the lookup heading in the lower right. And here, we're provided with all the resources which Logos recognizes as being go-to points for a Hebrew Bible when you're looking up a word. So these are a lexica that it has, that my particular collection has available. You will have it for sure, the Brown Driver Briggs, the BDB. You might also have CHAL, that is the Concise Halot, as we call it, Hebrew and Aramaic lexicon. That's the HAL, Hebrew and Aramaic lexicon. C is for concise. My collection, I like to use the full version of the Halot, Hebrew and Aramaic lexicon of the Old Testament. You may also have the abridged BDB. No point in using it, frankly, because you've got the high-octane version right here, the full text BDB. That's really the only one you need at this time. So a left click on BDB, then we'll change whatever we had in one side. It'll open up BDB. If it's for the first time, I'm not sure where it'll show up, but I would recommend that you would locate BDB as top to bottom on the right-hand half of your screen like you see it here. Not only did it opened it just to the right place. It opened it up to the bara entry. Just to show you how that works, let's do it with Elohim. I'm going over to Hebrew again. I'm going to left click on Elohim, confirming that it's got the word I'm interested in. Come down to lookup and click BDB. Left click BDB, and now Brown Driver Briggs has already got Elohim. This, my dear friends, is the finest feature that you're going to enjoy, is the rapid lookup of the lexical entries, especially when we work with some verbs that have weak radicals, a weak shorish component like a first hey, a first noon, a third hey, where the third consonant is a hey. These can be very tricky to recognize in their conjugated forms. The lexicon does a very fine job. Let's go back to bara. There we go. BDB, take me to bara, and here we are. In this video, we're not going to take the time to walk you through the detailed and very valuable information that a lexicon will provide, but just notice it's there for your consumption. You may notice that there is some pink highlighting going on. While we're here, just tell you that handy feature. This indicates that the computer realizes that you are looking in another panel at Genesis 1 through 5. It takes a look at the lexical entry that is opened up and asks itself, do we have any reference in the lexicon to Genesis 1 through 5? And we do. We have a couple of them. Here's Genesis 1:1 a couple of times. Why is that useful? One of the things you want to get used to doing is look for references to your target passage. Genesis 1:1 is our target, our launch point. Look for those in the lexicon because that can tell you what meaning of the various meanings of bara, which meaning the scholars think fits this context. Now, you're free to disagree with them, but at least you have their opinion, which oftentimes is a pretty good one. The only other item I'll point out on this screen is highlighting that's happening over here in the Hebrew and English. Now, I've clicked a couple of times to kind of neutralize the bara search. And you'll see that Ruach and Or, spirit and light, are highlighted over here in yellow and green. That's not been done on an automatic basis as the pink was. The pink was automatic. But these are manual highlights that sometime in the past I was wanting to call attention to those words, perhaps displaying it in class or maybe doing a study of my own and wanting to keep track of those words. This is something that you can do within Logos. We won't take time to show you how to do that at this point, but those are manual ones that you can, by personal interest, put on a highlight of various colors. We opened up earlier with Proverbs 13, didn't we? Proverbs 13. And you'll notice here is a yellow highlight with a green box around it. Again, that's just something that I did at some point in my study because I was wanting to pay attention to that particular word. You can remove those at any time as well. That wraps up what we wanted to cover in this introductory lecture. Let me know if you have any questions about setup and you're on your way to using your Hebrew studies for a life of ministry, not just for a few months to get through a seminary course. And I know using it life in ministry is your goal in mind.